the Tuesday morning edition of the Field of 68's Best Bets podcast and Best Bets live stream. That's getting harder and harder for me to say, Jeff. Best Bets.
What happens
podcast.
when you drink late and early in the morning?
Yeah, just coffee today.
All right.
Well, I wish there was a little Johnny Black in there or something, but nope, just coffee today.
Well, listen.
All right, so
you had a good day off yesterday. Your kids were you were able to not have to be Mr. Dad yesterday. It was a big day for you.
My son's back in school. No more COVID positives at the school that he goes to. So, and my wife is off of work this week. So, like, she's hanging out with my daughter all day, which means like I was able to just sit around and get stuff done. And I've never felt more productive. Like I got all my stuff done during the day. It was the first time I went to sleep before like 3 a.m. in I don't even know how long. So I'm feeling refreshed. I'm feeling sprightly. I'm feeling good to go, Jeff. You know who's not feeling good to go this morning?
Who's that?
Tom Izzo.
Yeah. Holy shit. No, think about Izzo. Think about being anybody on that staff today and having to deal with Izzo. Like they
are a complete train wreck. They are a complete train wreck. So that was the first time that I've sat down and watched them. And I was like, wow, I didn't put together just how bad and how messed up this team is. Like, they don't have a playmaking point guard. Nope. They don't have a five that's any good at all. They cannot rebound the ball. They have no kind of rim protection. They can't play Joey Hauser at the five because he couldn't guard you right now. Aaron Henry looks like all of his confidence is completely shot. Gabe Brown is the most inconsistent player I've ever seen in my entire life. There's not one thing on that roster that's working right now.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the thought going in was Rocket Watts is going to be the guy. That's what I thought. I thought it was going to be Rocket Watts scoring 20. He'd have some games where he'd be brutal, but for the most part, you know, he'd score 15 to 20 every single night. And he's not a point, which is, I think, okay. I'm not sure it's like ideal, but you can get away without having a point at the point if he's just a scorer, right? If he's a scorer and he's got enough around him. He doesn't have enough around him, number one. And you don't now have a point who makes anybody's life easier on the offensive end. So everybody's got to manufacture their own. And I don't think, earlier in the year we saw it, I think it was in the game in the Champions Classic, where they started utilizing Aaron Henry almost as like a point forward, especially in transition. And it worked. But I think it was almost like fool's gold at that point. Like, Duke wasn't very good. And you realize that after that game, a lot of people had no idea how bad Duke was at that point. So Michigan State's win against Duke really was very underwhelming.
Yeah, and they were kind of riding on that, the idea that they went into Cameron Indoor Stadium and got a win. But in theory, if you were going to tell me that I would get Rocket Watts as the scorer, you would get Aaron Henry as the facilitator, you have Joey Hauser on the floor, you have guys like Malik Hall and Gabe Brown and these other pieces that kind of run around them. It's right. Like that makes sense. But whatever it is, I think part of it is they really just can't guard. Like, they cannot get stops. And eventually that's just going to beat you down. And, I mean, look, Boo Buie lit up Rocket Watts. Demetric Trice lit up Rocket Watts. Marcus Carr lit up Rocket Watts. Like, at some point, he's got to sit down and say, okay, I'm getting my ass kicked every single time I step foot on the court. Like, you got to have pride at some point.
Josh Langford is, and we knew this was going to happen. He's a little bit of a shell of himself. He's just been banged up. Hadn't played in a while.
What can you do? It's like that with Jordan Bohannon too. Like, you got these guys that have been, they've gone through multiple surgeries. They've missed so much time. Like, you just can't complete at that level after a while. Your body's just not going to be able to support it, and it sucks. Jordan and Josh Langford are both really nice kids, and they're kids that you want to see succeed.
Yep.
And they're just not who they used to be.
Is the problem, again, you go back to it and you say, unto theirself, Aaron Henry's fine where he is. Rocket Watts as your two guard is fine. Joey Hauser as your four man is fine. So I've always said the two most important, and it's not the case anymore, but it used to be where you need a point guard and you need a big. You don't necessarily need a big now, but you do. You do to some degree, because you got to defend, you got to rebound. You don't need a big scorer, but you need a big that's going to be able to, protect the rim to some degree, rebound the ball, especially if you're Michigan State, right? If you play for Izzo, you better have that. They don't have that, and they don't have a point guard. So is there any way this season can be salvaged in a sense of not just getting like into the tournament as an 8-9 seed?
I don't think so.
Could they not make the tournament, Rob? How's this one for you? Could Michigan State not make the NCAA tournament this year?
Absolutely. Like we saw what they did last night against Minnesota, right? They were horrific, right? And normally what you would want in this situation are a couple of easy games to be able to find a way to get things right, get your confidence going again. Because honestly, so Tim Miles had Shaka Smart on his podcast the other day. And one point that I thought was really interesting that Shaka made is that he's charted like the deflections that you get, that his teams get in games. And he went back over the summer and he looked and he found that like the more deflections that they got defensively, the better. Like that always came in the middle of a run. And the points when they weren't getting deflections was when they were getting beat up. And his theory was that, okay, when we're getting deflections and we're locked in and we're playing hard and we're playing confident and we're playing together and you're doing all of those cliche things that coaches love to tout. And it shows up where that shows up is deflections defensively because you're there in the right time to make that rotation. You're reading, you're jumping the passing lane, you're locked in, whatever it is. And I don't think that Michigan State has that right now. So the question you got to ask is are these results because Michigan State is a bad team? Or are these results happening because they are a broken team that doesn't have any confidence, that hasn't figured out how to make things work? And I think you could go either way on this one. And the issue that you run into is that you don't have that get-right game. When you play in the Big Ten, it's insane. There's one team in the Big Ten that's outside the top 55 in KenPom. It is ridiculous, the schedule that these teams have to play. So if you're Michigan State, let's bring up their schedule and let's see who they got coming up next, because there is going to be no point in time where they are going to be able to sit there.
Luckily, they got at Nebraska next. So the battle.
There you go. They're
the battle of the Hoibergs.
That might be the time when they get right. But if you're asking, okay, can Michigan State miss the NCAA tournament? Absolutely. They're not right now.
Wait. We're on the Best Bets pod. Mm-hmm. What are the odds? What are the odds you're giving me whether Michigan State misses the tournament or not?
What odds would I bet it at? I would say I'd probably need like plus 500 or so, 5-1 odds that Michigan State misses the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's worth it at that. You're not going to get plus 500. You're probably going to get, honestly, today, I don't know, plus 175.
No, I think it would be higher than that. But
Really?
It's Tom Izzo. It's Tom Izzo on a team that has they have the pieces to be able to make it happen.
Higher meaning?
Yeah, I think they would be. You would get better odds. I think it would probably be around like plus 300 or plus 400. 3 games into the Big Ten slate, Tom Izzo, you're not going to get great odds on them missing the NCAA tournament at this point.
That's I think plus 175, something like that.
You got anything on Wisconsin losing and Maryland winning? That's pretty impressive.
You and I were killing turds yesterday, and he comes through. He must have heard you. He must have heard you.
He probably did.
Job. Listen, the only way Maryland's going to win those games is playing tougher. Like, that's what Maryland needs to be this year. They need to be a junkyard dog type of team that just out-toughs everybody. Like, Morcell was a maniac at the end of that game, and it wasn't just him. They just, frankly, in the second half, they punked Wisconsin. And they guarded, and they made it tough. And Wisconsin wasn't getting the easy shots they were getting in the first half, really around the rim. A lot of them came around the rim in the first half. So I was impressed with Maryland's toughness. I'm not worried about Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin's that type of team. They're not overwhelmingly good. They're good. They're going to win more than they lose in the Big Ten because they're older, because they know their roles, but they're not that good. Their margin for error is still slim.
I was much more impressed with Maryland offensively than I thought it was going to be. Like, they went through a stretch in the second half where it was with 17 minutes left in the half. They were down 34-26, and they went and they scored basically every possession for about the next 8 to 10 minutes against a really good Wisconsin defense. Eric Ayala was making shots. They were able to take advantage of the fact that Wisconsin had the two bigs. And so that was the big concern we had with the Badgers coming into the season, right?
Right.
What happens defensively when you can space them out and Micah Pott has got to guard on the perimeter and Nate Reavers has to guard on the perimeter. And Maryland, it took a while to get there, but Maryland eventually took advantage of that. The dunk that Dante Scott had on Nate Reavers to put him up by 5 with less than a minute left.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah, Dante Scott was good. They need that, though. They need Marcel. They need Ayala. They need Dante Scott. They need kind of everybody, Jarvis Hamilton, all of them to be 10 to 15 point a game, 10 to 12 even a point a game scores. And honestly, the only way they're winning is close games. And what I worry about is in a close game, who are you giving the ball to make a play? I mean, I don't know. I think this team is better than we think because I actually think Turds is a good coach. I do. I think he's a good coach. I think the biggest problem with Turds sometimes is he's not touchy-feely, so the fan base doesn't love him because that's not his personality. He just wants to coach ball.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a very impressive win, so you got to give credit where credit is due. And, it's with the way that I've been killed by Wisconsin fans, I'm never, ever, ever going to be upset about the Badgers losing. That's always fun for me. All right, let's get into tonight's slate. Before we do, I got to tell you guys about the official odds provider of the Field of 68 Media Network. That is DraftKings Sportsbook. The holiday season may be winding down, but the sports calendar is in full swing. From collegiate to pro sports, there is no shortage of action, and there is no better place to get in on all of this action than with DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. If you haven't tried out DraftKings Sportsbook, what are you waiting for? To celebrate this year's college football playoffs, DraftKings is giving all new users the chance to bet on any semifinal team to win the title at 100-1 odds. That's right. All you have to do is bet $1 on any semifinal team to win the championship, and your team win. And if that team wins, you cash $100. That's for new users and for people that sign up with the promo code FIELD68. And remember, while we're all excited about the college football playoffs and the NFL playoffs, let's not forget the 2021 basketball season is in full swing, college basketball and the NBA. So go to the app now and check out all of DraftKings Daily Odds Boost. It's safe, it's secure, it's reliable, and they make it easy for you to deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. So download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code FIELD68 when you sign up to get 100-1 odds on any semifinal team to win it all. That's code FIELD68, FIELD68 for new players to get a shot at $100 on any semifinal team this week for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. You must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania residents only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. Jeffrey, my favorite game of the night, my favorite bet of the night. We have Northwestern at Iowa. That line is 10.5. Iowa is favored. That total is 157. What do you like there? Because there's one very obvious bet that I think is something. It's the first thing when I woke up and I got the odds and I checked my phone.
157?
Yep.
Yeah, I kind of like the over, but I like the points. I'll take the points there. Listen, I'm gonna roll with Northwestern right now. They got confidence. I think Iowa's a little bit wounded. Again, I think you're going to give Garza his 30. You just got to make sure that you contain those other guys for the most part. So I'll take the points there and say that Northwestern's going to keep it close. I'm not sure they win, but again, right now, who knows with Northwestern Wildcats? So
I absolutely love the over in this spot.
I knew you would. I
love the over in this spot. The reason why is, it's just pretty simple, right? We know that Iowa's issue is on the defensive end of the floor. They cannot guard teams that can space you out. They cannot guard dribble penetration. They cannot handle people that can put the ball on the floor and get to the rim. We've seen Northwestern do all of those things. For people that have not watched the Wildcats this year, which I'm assuming is a lot of you, they've really gone heavy to this 5-out offense. They run a lot of things through Pete Nance, and I'm blanking on the name of their other big guy that they have. Is it Ryan Young.
Yeah.
And what they do is they run a ton of stuff for those guys at the top of the key. They run a ton of the stuff for those guys kind of out of like the mid post area where they have cutters running off of them. You'll see a lot of like the Nick Nurse influence from Toronto in what Chris Collins is running in terms of the way that they kind of remember how they would put Marc Gasol at the top of the key and they just have screens and cutters and all of this action on both sides of the floor where you space everything out and Marc Gasol is able to just kind of pick out a pass and find someone that's open. Well, that's what they do with Pete Nance and with Ryan Young. And both those guys have been really effective at it. And it helps when you have guys like Boo Buie and Miller Kopp that are just absolute drillers. Like those guys are making shots at a ridiculous clip. And I don't see that slowing down against an Iowa team that had like their entire issue is that they can't guard me. So on the other end of the floor, like good luck trying to slow down Luka Garza. Like Pete Nance probably weighs 165 pounds.
Yeah, he's screwed. That's what I'm saying. Like there's nothing you're going to be able to do. That's my concern is he fouls everybody out. And honestly, they just keep feeding them and they dominate. They just wear them down and dominate. But I just think it's a lot of points to give a team right now that is on a major heater. And they've got confidence. They're making shots. They don't have to guard Iowa. They just, honestly, they got to score with them.
Yeah, I would probably lean towards Northwestern in this spot. The one thing that I am just kind of a little bit concerned about is it does feel like a sell high spot for Northwestern in a bot. Like right. Iowa's coming off of that loss to Minnesota. Yeah. Like we talked about it yesterday. Like there was a lot of look. I killed Fran McCaffrey for the way that ended. We criticized some of the decisions that they made, but at the end of the day, like Minnesota won because Marcus Carr hit two really tough step back jumpers in the last 30 seconds of overtime.
And Brandon Johnson made every shot.
And Brandon Johnson hit 4 straight threes in overtime. He doubled the number of threes that he had made on the entire season in the first 3 minutes of that overtime period. It was ridiculous. So there is a little bit of fluke involved in that. So I do guess that it's a little bit of a buy low spot for Iowa, but I'm in on Northwestern maintaining this entire season. And the way that line is set, it feels like it's set at a point of what you would see on some of these projection sites where Northwestern is still ranked outside the top 50. And I don't believe that Northwestern is outside. Like they're probably closer to a top 30 team. So it feels like there is value on the Northwestern side in this spot. I think the over is the play. I think that makes the most sense.
Okay. The second best game of the day is Purdue-Rutgers, in my opinion. Anytime you have the Scarlet Knights right now on the docket, it's a good day. Rutgers only giving 3 here at home, Rob?
Yeah, they're a little banged up, aren't they? Do we have any word on Cliff Omoruyi yet?
I don't. But what I know is in the game against Ohio State, right, it was Ohio State, the loss to Ohio State, Miles Johnson was fouled out early. Jacob Young was banged up, and they didn't have Cliff. So my assumption is Jacob Young's back. Maybe they don't have Cliff, but Miles Johnson has to stay out of foul trouble, which is not going to be easy to do against Purdue and Trevion Johnson. But I just think, man, like, and it's crazy to say this, but like anytime Rutgers is only given 3 at the rack, I know the fans aren't going to be there, but it's still a home court advantage. Like we're saying that those two teams are even on a neutral court for the most part. And I don't believe that to be the case. I think Rutgers is clearly the better team right now over Purdue. So I'm going to take Rutgers given the 3 there.
Yeah, I really like Rutgers in that spot as well. I can't bet them because I live in New Jersey, and it's illegal going through the legal betting sites like DraftKings. You cannot bet on the New Jersey teams, which kind of stinks because I would love to be able to invest a little bit of money on Rutgers in this spot. But I don't know who on Purdue guards Ron Harper Jr. Like, who do you put on? They don't really have a guy that kind of has the size.
Nobody
has
does.
the strength and kind of has
nobody
the
does. That's the great thing about Ron Harper Jr. You look at him, first of all, and I'm going to age myself here, but I interviewed Ron Harper's father when I was in high school, and he came into Boston.
Tell that story. You told me that story. Tell that story.
I don't think I told the Ron Harper.
Is he the guy that you just cold called when he was in the hotel room?
Well, he wasn't the only one. Yes, that one was Ron Harper Jr. and I was in the room. You remember Hot Rod Williams,
Yeah.
who got in all the trouble later?
Yeah.
Yeah, I both those guys interviewed them both. Drove into Boston, and Ron Harper's father, like one of the nicest dudes you will ever meet. But yeah, like his kid is completely different than him. And I got yelled at last year because I referred to him as Ron Harper's kid. And like everybody jumped on me on Twitter. Like, you can't say that. Even he made fun of me for it. He did it kind of in a funny way. But he made fun of me for it. So now he's Ron Harper Jr. because this kid can ball. And,
they jumped all over me because I said that he was the fat guy player of the year this year.
Well, his body, right? I mean, you look at him and like he's got like a George Niang body.
Yeah, he does. Right? I said he looks like he was raised on jelly donuts and fettuccine Alfredo, and he's out here killing everybody. I thought it was a compliment. I thought it was a compliment.
Well, I don't think you say that about anybody. It's a compliment right now. I think that those are fighting words. But listen, give the kid credit because he's been phenomenal this year. And, the beauty of Rutgers is they're not about one guy, though. Like, they've got multiple dudes that can play. And when they get Big Cliff back, and hopefully it is tonight, and they'll be whole again, this is a team that, honestly, you could put up against anybody other than, to me, like Gonzaga, Baylor, Villanova, maybe. And it's a toss-up. They could play with anybody in the country this year.
Yeah, I agree. I would put Tennessee in that same conversation, but I'm moving all my chips in on Tennessee this year. I think that they're really, really good. So, yes, I like Rutgers in that spot as well. We got a couple more minutes. Let's roll through these pretty quickly. Miami at Virginia Tech. I'm going to stay away from that. Both Chris Likes and Cam McGusty are game-time decisions.
Yeah, I'm going Virginia Tech because even if they play, they're not going to be close to 100%, Rob. I'm going Virginia Tech there, laying the 6.5. I really like it because, again, Miami might get some reinforcements back, but they're not quite ready. They haven't practiced. They're going to be rusty. So I'm going Mike Young and Virginia Tech at home. They're giving 6.5.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I just think 6.5 is a little bit too much if Chris Likes and Cam McGusty play. Like, those guys are veterans. I don't think that they necessarily need to practice to be able to.
What do you like in the football matchup? The Florida State Clemson football matchup. Clemson, I believe, what are they favored by? About 2 at home?
We were talking about this. Like, there are so many good football matchups tonight. We have Clemson, Florida State. We have Ole Miss, Alabama. We have Texas A&M, LSU. And none of those games really move the needle at all on the basketball side. But all right, so Florida State, Clemson. I don't know, man. That's tough. Like, I think Clemson is legit very, very good. They are one of the best defensive teams in the country, and I don't know how Florida State is going to be able to score. That said, the weakness for Clemson is like getting on the defensive glass. And the one thing that you can always there's 2 things that you can always like bet on for Florida State teams. One is they're going to switch everything defensively. They're always going to have like nothing but 6'6" athletic dudes, and they're going to switch everything. And the other thing they're going to do is get to the offensive glass. So I think they'll have the bodies to be able to slow down Amir Sims. I think they'll be able to get on the offensive glass. I also just don't think Florida State's that good. So I probably would take Clemson minus 1.5 here, but I think it's mostly a stay away from me.
What else we got? Anything else?
LSU at Texas A&M. Like, how do you feel about that? Is this going to be the – no one's talking about how good Cam Thomas has been this year, and that might be a good thing for him.
Well, like I'm doing a mock draft now, and he's going to be in the 20s for me. Cam Thomas, maybe the most productive scoring freshman in the country. Javonte Smart didn't play the last game because of contact tracing. I think I'd wait to find out what's going to happen with Javonte Smart, whether or not I'm gonna lay 6.5 for LSU. If he plays, I'm laying the 6.5, and I'm gonna load up on it. If he doesn't, I like it, but I don't love it. I probably go with it anyway. Probably go with LSU anyway. It just depends to me how much, whether or not Javonte Smart's playing. My favorite game of the day, Rob.
What's that?
I've ridden this team and I keep winning. Mercer, Greg Gary and Mercer. They have 2 really good transfers. They've got good high school players that have come in, and Jeff Gary, his nephew's been really, really good. They play Wofford, and Wofford isn't Wofford. If you've checked lately, they're not the Wofford that You remember from a couple of years ago, Robert. So I'm taking Mercer laying 2.5 at home against Wofford.
Yeah, I get it. I like that play as well. I think Mercer's really, really good. The only other game that I was interested in is Ole Miss at Alabama. I just don't. I don't think the Fighting Natos have it this year.
Wow, you're going against them at home.
Yeah, I'm going against them at home. I like Ole Miss. I think Kermit Davis. That's one of those ones where you just kind of bet on the coaching matchup. I think Kermit Davis is terrific at what he does. I'd also be interested in Houston laying 7.5 against Tulsa. Houston's really, 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 really good.
You know what I really like? Good. I like USC laying 11 against Santa Clara at home. I just think they're going to overwhelm them.
My only concern is like USC has missed like 3 weeks or something like that, right?
Yeah. Listen, stick Evan Mobley out there, and good luck, Santa Clara. Good luck guarding him. Yep. That's all I'll say.
Their last game was exactly 3 weeks ago, so that would be my only concern. Yep. But the last time that they played, like they beat the hell out of BYU and they beat the hell out of UC Irvine, who is really good. So I like that. So my overall picks, I'm going to be heavy on Iowa Northwestern. That's like without a question. That over is the over there is my favorite bet of the day.
Yep.
I will also be on. I'll take Clemson. I'll have that be one of my picks. And what was the other game that I really liked today?
I don't know. Honestly,
there's one other
Mercer.
Oh no, the Ole Miss money line.
All right, I got Northwestern.
And you know what? I'll ride with you on Mercer too. So I got Mercer -2. I got the Iowa and Northwestern over. I will take Clemson and I will take the Ole Miss money line.
All right, I got Northwestern, Rutgers, Virginia Tech, LSU, Mercer, USC. Those are my 6. Just hoping to go 4-2. I cooled off a little bit yesterday, Rob.
We all did, man. We all did. Thanks a lot, Michigan State. Thanks a lot, Dave Fife. It's your fault.
Luckily, I took the sucker line of Northern Iowa.
Looked
too good to be true. Looked too good to be true, didn't it?
Yes, it did. There you go.
All right,
there you go. All right, man. We will see you guys.